Hello everyone, my name is Mark Lee, and this is the official presentation of my paper, Meth and Murder, the violent success of Duterte's war on drugs, published as part of the International Conference on Recent Social Studies and Humanities 2020. Now, this paper is on the Philippine drug war, and the man at the heart of this story is Rodrigo Duterte, president of the Philippines, who, since his election in 2017, has launched a brutal policy of extrajudicial murder of innocent civilians and alleged drug pushers. Now, it is important to see here that Duterte has a history of promoting such tough on crime policies. Ever since his election in 1988 as mayor of Davao, seen here on this map, he formed the Davao Death Squad, which was responsible for more than 1,400 deaths of drug pushers, including unaccompanied street children. However, Duterte's policy also was indirectly responsible for a boost in the economic growth in the region to 9.4% by the end of his term in 2015, which led to him gaining heroic status within the community and led to his logo being emblazoned on city merchandise. Now, after the end of his term in 2015, Duterte ran for president, and in a close five-way race, he was eventually elected president with 39% of the popular vote. Here, examining the scale and scope of the actual drug war, it is important to note here that the PNP statistics, the statistics released by the official Philippine National Police, which count the death toll as somewhere around 5,400, are undercounting the death toll significantly. In fact, recent reports, according to Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, as of mid 2019, count the total death toll at a much higher 27,000 dead. And that is because the official PNP statistics do not count the homicides under investigation, which are a separate category, but essentially connected to the actions of plainclothes police officers and vigilantes as they conduct crimes essentially that are not overseen by the PNP directly. Again, one of the popular techniques used by the government to reduce the death toll is the use of paid vigilantes. And obviously, the crimes committed by vigilantes are counted under homicides under investigation. However, intensive reporting by BBC uncovered this woman who confessed to being paid by the government to intimidate and kill alleged drug pushers. Another tactic the police have used is the so-called buy-bust narrative, in which they claim that police officers deliberately launched sting operations to uncover drug pushers. Once the pushers realized that they were dealing with the police, they fired on the police officers, forcing the police officers to retaliate in lethal fashion. This is commonly known as nanlaban, or fighting back. However, witness testimony has consistently shown that instead of launching such sting operations, police officers either barged into the homes of subjects and shot them, conducted hit-and-run shootings, or in the case of more publicized deaths, such as that of Kian de los Santos, they conducted planned executions by dragging suspects to deliberately created CCTV blind spots. As such, we can see that despite what the methodology of the killings actually are, we can see that the police have deliberately misled the public in attempting to quantify their killings as sting operations rather than deliberate acts of police brutality. Another tactic that the police have commonly used is the usage of formulaic reports, a so-called Nanlaban template, and that is one of the many tells that the police are not actually providing detailed case information in the reports that they have filed. Meanwhile, police have also actively attempted to obstruct justice by planting guns and drug packets, which have directly been contradicted by witness and family testimony. However, despite all of these relatively widespread offenses, the police have been able to operate with almost complete impunity. Only three police officers have actually been convicted as a result of the aforementioned killing of Kian de los Santos, while the remaining hundreds of police officers who have committed such extrajudicial murders have been let off free. Finally, the last tactic that we must consider is the usage of oplantokang, or knock and plead policies by the police, in which they go door to door and ask for voluntarily surrender of illegal drugs. In reality, however, research has shown that these constitute police recon missions where they pick out targets for later targeted execution. Meanwhile, another problem with these police reports is that they rely on anonymous reporting and so-called drug watch lists by local district captains. This in turn causes the policy to have an element of economic discrimination, where those who are poor and vulnerable are disproportionately affected by such police actions. Meanwhile, Duterte has also used this policy to actively silence his political critics, namely Senator Antonio Trillanes, who was recently arrested after his amnesty was revoked, Senator Leila de Lima, who was arrested in June 2016 for drug trafficking, and Special Rapporteur of the United Nations, Victoria Taulicorpus, who was labeled as part of the Philippines Communist Party, thereby exposing her to further violence. Meanwhile, this obviously, predictably, led to a human rights backlash from the international community. Aside from an official UNHRC resolution that was passed and reports by several prominent international human rights watchdogs, such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, the most prominent international community action that was taken is the ICC investigation. The International Criminal Court and its chief prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, announced in February 2018 that they would be launching an investigation into the drug war. Now, the Philippines retaliated by immediately withdrawing from the Rome Statute upon which this investigation was founded, but fortunately for Bensouda, this has had no effect on the actual jurisdiction of the ICC in the possible crimes against humanity committed by Duterte and the Philippines government. Bensouda has publicly stated that she aims to finish her investigation by 2020, while Duterte has adamantly refused to comply with the investigation as a whole. However, Duterte's supporters, meanwhile, have cited the need to reduce rampant drug-related crime in the Philippines, specifically related to this crystal, methamphetamine hydrochloride, which is commonly known as crystal meth or shabu in the Philippines. Now, the Dangerous Drug Board has recently estimated that there are over 1.8 million shabu users in the Philippines, which is a 1.8% total of the population, which of course is the highest in East Asia and labels the Philippines as a very drug-rich country. This has led directly to greater crime as drugs are being sold openly in what the Philippines Catholic Bishops' Conference once called a daringly ubiquitous manner. Consequently, the Duterte's violent policy, has secured widespread public support, especially among, obviously, the Duterte's public supporters, but in the Philippines as a whole. A report by social weather stations found that 82% of Filipinos were satisfied with Duterte's policy as compared to 12% dissatisfied as of June 2019. Note here that both of the primary reasons for the approval and disapproval of this policy connect directly to the reduction of crime rather than the violence of the drug war itself. Therefore, we can conclude that the majority of Filipinos view the human cost of this policy as societally acceptable in the interest of public safety and the greater good. However, the effectiveness of this policy as a whole has also come under consideration due to a recent report by Vice President Leni Robredo, who was notably appointed as the commander of the entire operation for 1 week before being immediately sacked by Duterte. In her concluding speech on January 6, 2020, Robredo blasted the entire anti-drug campaign, where she gave it a score of 1 out of 100 based on the total 1% of drugs in the Philippines seized by the official authorities. In retaliation, obviously, Duterte supporters have rebutted this argument by saying that the drug war as a whole has prevented the open selling of drugs, the public presence of drugs, and consequently has lowered the social acceptance of drug use. And there is a substantial body of evidence to prove that this indeed does have an effect on overall drug sales. Meanwhile, Duterte supporters have also blamed the so-called ninja cops phenomenon for the internal corruption and the consequent ineffectiveness of this policy. Here shown is Oscar Albayalde, who is the Director General of the Philippines National Police. He was implicated in a 2013 scandal where he and several other officers were accused of having privately seized 162 kilograms of shabu from a drug lord that they had arrested and later selling it for personal profit. In conclusion, one can see that despite the widespread violence and police brutality that is evident within this policy and the varying accusations of human rights violations that have occurred, there is substantial evidence to show that Duterte's policy has actually been successful, both in the internal political arena and in terms of preventing actual drugs and drug-related crime. And as a result, this has enjoyed widespread public support in the Philippines. Therefore, those seeking to uncover more about this issue must consider the unique internal circumstances that merit further analysis. Thank you. Thank you again for ICRESH for allowing this publication, and I hope you enjoy.